My name is Brandon Fleener, and I currently live in Chicago, Illinois. I'm from a small town in East Tennessee, and recently the area has been affected by climate change. The climate has been consistently getting warmer over the past few years, and it's been to the point where I can still wear shorts and a t shirt during the fall and winter months. Before I moved, there was a pretty intense drought that the area had not dealt with for a very long time, and mostly electricity comes from hydroelectric power, and there's a bunch of man-made lakes all over the area, and during that time they were extremely low. There was also a large wildfire a few years ago that when I was a child would have been unheard of, and I worry because in the future the droughts and wildfires could intensify, and if it gets a lot worse then people would be displaced in a few decades. I can't point to the exact moment where I realized that climate change was a problem. It was more of a process and culmination of things. I think the biggest indicator was seeing some of the data behind global warming and hearing that if we don't cut our carbon emissions, we would be struggling to contain its effects. And that was about probably 10 years ago. And since then, we haven't cut any of our emissions and they've only increased. It's very worrying because I think about how future generations will survive in a world that's very unstable. How will they feed themselves if all of the agricultural lands are dried up or burning? How do I explain to my kids that our home used to have very pleasant weather, but by that time it'll be very unpleasantly hot most of the time? My view on stopping climate change is pretty fatalistic because people are not going to change their ways and it's already kind of too late. I want to do my part to address climate change, but I also think that shifting responsibility onto everyday consumers like us is a little unfair when the top 1% of consumers in society is polluting more than most of us ever will in our lifetimes on a daily basis. For example, Elon Musk's flight to space create as many emissions as 300 people flying across the Atlantic, and Kylie Jenner takes a private jet to go out to eat across town in Los Angeles. And we're told that the responsibility to fix this is on us, and I just don't really think that's fair or productive. I use public transportation. I don't own a vehicle, and when I do eventually get one, um, I hope that it's an electric one and won't burn any fossil fuels. I want my home to be carbon neutral and eventually want to get solar panels on my home and not have any appliances that burn fossil fuels. I want to be able to grow food in my own garden and eat as little like red meat or food that is produced with fossil fuels as possible. Um, I really do want to do my part to change climate change or address it, but again, I just don't know if that's going to make a difference when it takes all of us. I just don't think that enough people are going to change their ways, and in the end, nothing is really going to change.